Good day guys, welcome to today's video. So in today's video we'll be talking about function parameters and function arguments. Remember in our last video I taught you guys how to declare a function and how to define a function, which is function declaration and function definition, and also function call, which I taught you in our last video. So in this video we are going to talk about the function parameters, function argument, and how to pass an argument to a function. Okay, so if you look at this function that I just created here, which is good. Okay, I created a function named good, and the return type for this function is an integer because I want to return a value from this function that I created. Okay, so let me first of all explain the word parameters. When you talk about parameters, function parameters, it means what information the function will hold on, and where we pass our parameters is inside this bracket. So if your function have a parameter, just like the digital write function that has parameters, two parameters, which is what information will that function work on, that is what we call by parameters. And that information that function will work on is that, in case of digital write, is that first of all the first parameter you will define the pin. Then the second parameter is that you will set the state of that pin, either high or low. So that is what we call by parameter. So whenever you talk about function parameters, it means the information which that function will hold to perform. What are the necessary information that that function needs to perform its work? That is what we call by parameters. So then in terms of argument means passing those parameters, passing that value, that information that function needs, is what we call argument. Okay, so if you look at now, I pass an argument of integer a. I'm giving that function the information that it needs to perform. Okay, let me repeat this thing again. The parameter of this my function, which is good, is that it has two parameters, which is integer a and integer b. It makes use of parameter. That means it needs two information to work. That is what we call by parameters, because my function needs two information to perform its work. Then the argument that I'm passing now is the actual value, the actual information. Whenever I pass that actual information, it is called an argument. And now that actual information I'm giving to this my function is integer a and integer c. I've passed the argument. So whenever you put any information, any value in this bracket, that means you have passed an argument. So if your function that you created only requires one parameter, that means you will pass one argument. But my own function here requires two parameters. That means it needs two information to work, and I've passed that argument of that information which that my function needs, and that information is integer a and integer c. Okay, this is the difference between parameters and arguments. Some people don't understand the difference between parameter and argument. The parameter and argument are two different things. They are not the same. Okay, so in this my function that I created now, I use a return type of an integer. Then I called my function good, which is my function name. Then I now pass the argument. After declaring the parameter, which is two parameters, I now pass an argument of my function. So inside that function that I created, I need to define what performance that my function will perform. So inside that my function, remember this is the opening curly braces and closing curly braces of my function, and this function is declared outside the void loop. Okay, so inside this my function, inside the open and closing curly braces, I now define the work of the function, and I say integer result. Then I now declare a local variable inside that function, which is integer result. So I want this result to hold the value I want to pass to it. So inside it, I now say result equals to a plus c. So what I want to do now is that any value that I pass, to this my function, it will add it up. That is the work of this function, to add any value that I put in it. Okay, so inside this function I now say result equals to a plus c. Then I answer return result. I want after the calculation, let this function return it to this. I use a return type to return that information inside the definition, the behind the scene of that function. I want it to return it back to the function that I just created. Okay, that is why I use return. And if you use the return, the color will change. Okay, and I say return result because this result is what will hold the answer of this our argument that we put here, which is a plus c. So inside the function I say a plus c, and I say return result. Let that result, the after solving the equation, let it return it back to this function. Okay, that is the definition of this function that I just made there. Then I will now call this function that I just created, which is good, inside the void loop. Okay, see what I did now. I now declare a global variable which is integer t, and this integer t will hold the value of this function that I created. So I now say t equals to good, which is my function. I now put a value. So I now put a value inside the function which is 20. So this 20 will hold the integer a position, and this 10 will hold the integer b inside the function that we just declared and defined. Okay, so what the work of this function is that any value that you put inside this bracket, what is going to do is going to perform an addition this thing work. It will add the number. So any value that you put inside it, which is argument, any argument that you put inside this bracket, it will add it up. So if I decide to change this value to 50, 100, it will add that 50 and 100. Okay, so that is the function that I created. So whenever I want to do addition, instead of doing a plus this, I just call my function and put that value there. Remember, if I want to do an addition, I have to declare the variable, the global variable. Then I will come to this void loop and say a plus b, assuming if the variable that I created is a and b. I will come inside this void loop and say a plus b, which is adding two value. But I now create a function that will help me, instead of me going to declaring a global variable. What I need to do is just to call my function. Instead of me to go here and be declaring each value that I want to add, all I have to do is just call this my function good and put the value that I want to add, and this my function good will perform that action for me. It will save me the stress of declaring a global variable and initializing the value to add. Okay, it will save me that stress. All I need to do is just call my function, and my function will do the addition for me. So that is the function that I created for myself in order to perform an addition. To add two numbers up. Okay, so what I did now, I called this my function. The reason why I put this t, I declare this t as a global variable, is just to hold the value, to print it from my in my serial monitor. So this t is holding the return type of this function that I created. So inside this function, I just called good, and I pass my argument, which is the value that I want to add. That is my argument. And this function holds two parameters. What are the two parameters? This one, this 20 and 10. That is the parameter this my function is holding. Then the argument that I just passed to this my function is putting the value here, putting 20 and 10. That means I have passed an argument to my function. Okay, so whenever I compile this thing, it is going to add this 20 and 10, and which is going to be 30. So let me compile it, and then we'll go to our simulator and see what our function does. So I will compile it now. Then I'll copy the hex file and go to our simulator to see if what we compile works. Okay, so let's wait for it while it is compiling. So let's wait for it. It's compiling. Then let's see. So it's done compiling. So I will go and copy the hex file. So let me copy the hex file. I've copied the hex file. Then let me go to our part2 simulator. So let me run the code. So I'm going to run the code. Okay, so let's simulate and see if it is going to add the number up, right? So let's see. Okay, if you look at our serial monitor, you'll see that it has had that 2 value that we just passed to our function, which is 30. The reason why this thing is still like this is because I didn't put a delay. Okay, but it does not mean, but the most important thing is that we have seen that our function that we created works. So this function is adding 2 numbers up, okay, and which is, it has added the 20 and 10 argument that I passed to it up. Okay, so if you want to add any number, you also put that value inside that function and it will add it up. So guys, thank you for watching this video. I hope you have understand what function parameters means and function argument means, and how to pass an argument to a function. So thank you guys for watching. See you in our next video. Bye.